Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this Inkblot workshop on communication confidence. As part of our goal from the 2022 World of Difference campaign to support self-care and wellness best practices for job seekers, we're pleased to partner with Inkblot to host a series of wellness workshops for our clients, alumni, and staff. I'm very excited to introduce you to our speaker today, Cari Frame. Cari is a certified professional active coach trained by the Coaches Training Institute and a professional member of the International Coach Federation. She is known as a self-kindness life coach because her practice focuses on the premise that improving your relationship with yourself has unlimited effectiveness in all areas of life. Connecting clients to their inner strength and inherent worth are key elements in her coaching practice. As a career coach, Cari supports clients to all aspects of career transition and transformation with a particular specialty in working in LinkedIn. Prior to coaching, her varied career includes expertise in the field of solopreneurship, civil engineering, forestry, health ethics, and administration. Cari was even a small-town firefighter for 2 years. She began her career in the arts with a degree in religious studies and philosophy from the University of Alberta. She supported ethics education in healthcare and in her work as an ethics education coordinator for Alberta Health Services. And Cari also has extensive volunteer experience in crisis intervention and suicide and mental distress support. Over to you, Cari. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeanette. Can everybody hear me well? Yes, awesome. Thank you. Well, I'm so glad to be here with all of you today to talk about communication confidence. So I don't need to go through any more of my bio because Jeanette did that for me. But just to let you all know that when I'm helping people in their careers, talking about confidence, I come to it from a very personal place, especially around communication. You might be able to tell that I'm a relatively soft-spoken person. And for a lot of years in my life, I didn't share my ideas at work because I didn't feel like anyone could really hear me over all the other voices. I felt like, I didn't have the ability to speak up loud enough to really be heard. And so, helping people build their confidence around communication is something that I'm very passionate about. So I'm so glad to be here with all of you today. So what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about where confidence comes from, because doesn't it just feel like sometimes it's there 1 minute and then it's gone? And how the heck can I get it back? We're going to talk about what makes it go away. Why does it leave us when sometimes we need it the most? And how can we make sure that doesn't happen? We're going to talk about the place where your inner dialogue, how you talk to yourself, has an impact on your confidence and how you talk to others. And then we're going to go through some specific examples of how to apply different exercises in the workplace, in networking, and in interviewing. And so a couple ground rules for today, just for since we're going to have a fairly big group. I want to see lots and lots of engagement. So please don't feel like you have to sit there and just listen to me the whole time and get bored. Please feel free to engage in the chat. That's going to be our biggest place to come together during this workshop. So if you haven't done already, please say hello in the chat. And I'll be monitoring the chat, and so will Jeanette through the whole workshop today. I'm also going to have some breakout rooms where you'll be able to come together in groups of about 3 to talk about things, to share, to practice some of the exercises together. So there'll be lots of engagement throughout. So make sure that you're ready for that. And if you don't have yet, I recommend that you have maybe some way of taking notes, because my hope for you is that even though I'm going to hit you with quite a bit of information today, don't feel like you have to take notes on everything, but look for those things that really strike you as, oh, that's really beneficial. I needed to know that, or I feel like I could apply that. Then those are the things that you definitely want to write down. And if you come away with one or two things where you're like, you know what, I'm going to practice that because I think that's going to help my confidence around communication, then this whole workshop is a win, because it's not about grabbing everything. It's about grabbing those things that really mean something to you. So let's dig into it. All right, so let's start in the chat with why you're here today. What is your hope of what you'll get from this today? I'd love to see that in the chat. So I'll give you a minute. Let us know. Great. Thank you, Revathi, to improve your communication skills. Yeah. Speaking in a crowd. Yep. Me too. Thanks. Okay. Newcomers to Canada. Very good. Thank you for that. I will keep that in mind. Great. Something new around communication. Yeah. Yeah, because we do it every day, but maybe there's a new way to look at something. For networking, we're definitely going to talk about that. Oh, thank you. How to pay proper attention to key ideas. Okay, great, great. So these are fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone, for letting us know what you're here for. And if you didn't know why you were here, well, now your fellow participants have given you a whole bunch of reasons why you're here. So that's fantastic. So hold on to that goal for today. And I want to check in at the end and see how you're all feeling about these original goals. See if you got what you came here for today. So let's start with where confidence comes from. Have you ever had
Cari,
those? Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. It seems that maybe somebody, at least one person is not able to see your screen. Is everybody able to see the screen? Oh, it looks like no. Do you want to try resharing?
I'm so sorry. There we go. How's that? You guys, thank you so much for that. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back, because then that means that you guys didn't get to read the agenda either. So there's the agenda. Can everybody see it now? Yay. Oh, thank you. See, communication. It's so important. Okay, so that's our agenda. And then we shared in the chat. And now we're going to talk about where confidence comes from. Thank you. My goodness, you guys. I need those reminders. Okay, so sometimes it feels like some people have that thing that allows them to be confident, and you don't. Or you have confidence in some areas of your life without even trying. But then in other areas of your life, you're so nervous, your voice is shaky, your words don't come out right, right? So we're going to talk about where it comes from. And we're going to break it down really simply into the internal and external sources. The things that we feel like give us confidence from the inside and from the outside. So oftentimes we think that confidence comes from validation from others. And so this would be external sources of confidence. So we think that, oh, when someone praises me, oh yeah, that's what gives me confidence. Or when someone approves of something I've done or something, that's what gives me confidence. Sometimes we even bring it to a place of, I've got a nice outfit on today, because that's also external. That's something on the outside. And we feel like that gives us confidence. I know for me, sometimes it's like if I'm having a good hair day, then I'll feel like, oh, then today's going to be, a day where I feel confident, right? Or sometimes it's also about the things that we possess, our belongings. That's also an external factor that we can feel like is giving us confidence. I got new clothes. People like my car, or something like that, right? Or a purse, or whatever. We think that those pieces will give us confidence. And of course, marketers and people who are in the business of selling products, they really want us to believe that confidence comes from the outside, that is real confidence, but it's not. It is conditional confidence. If and when you get some kind of validation or approval from others, and that's where your confidence is coming from, what happens when their validation and their approval isn't there? When it goes away, when it never shows up in the first place, what happens to your confidence? It completely goes down, right? So when you base your own sense of confidence in yourself on what other people think of you, your confidence will always be shaky. It will be hard to maintain, and it will be hard for you to feel like you can know that it will be there, because you have no control, actually, over what other people think. You just don't. So building your confidence on external factors, factors on the outside of you, of course it plays a part, but it shouldn't be the big part of your confidence, because then your confidence will always be a little bit shaky. So let's find out in the chat. What is something that you have thought, oh yeah, when I have this from the outside, then I'm confident? What is something for you? For me, it's like a good hair day. That's my example of an external factor that helps my confidence. What about you all? I want to know in the chat. And whenever you see that little chat bubble there, that means I'm going to be waiting for answers to come up in the chat. What's something that boosts your confidence from the outside? Yeah, pretty dress. Yes, new clothes, right? Yes. Yes, validation when your work is done. Oh, these are great examples. Yes. Absolutely. Positive feedback. Yes, that's right. Self-care. Oh, that's a really interesting one. Validation from the crowd. You know what? I'm getting that right now because you guys are engaging with my material. So thank you for that. A positive vibe. Yeah. This is great, everyone. Thank you so much. These are great examples. You've totally figured this out, what the things that are coming to you from the outside, or that are a part of your outside persona. Yeah, these are external factors, and they are great, but it's really important that they aren't the only thing that your confidence is based on. So now I'm curious, now that you've identified some external factors, what would be something from the inside for you that gives you confidence? and we're going to talk about it, but I want to know what you think first. Yeah, great. How well you know the topic. Totally. Being prepared. Oh my goodness, you guys are doing great. Yes, self-motivated, prepared. These are great. Yes, these are things, what's so cool about this is that when you start looking at those internal factors that create confidence, notice how every single one of these is something that you each have total control over. Whether you're prepared or not, that's completely in your control. Your awareness of your audience, well, you can choose whether to be aware or not, right? Yeah. Now, no language constraints. That's an interesting one. And that I totally acknowledge for people that are learning English or French in Canada. That is a challenge that you have in your communication that not everybody has. But how you manage that challenge is in your control. So yeah, gratitude, self-confidence. Oh man, you guys, this is great. I feel like you all could run this, but I'll keep running it and hopefully we'll stay on track. So internal sources of confidence. So this is where rather than focusing on the external sources, which we've already said, they're shaky. They are perpetually changing. We never know whether those factors are going to be there or not. Not like that. Internal sources of confidence are solid. They are within your control. They are well grounded in knowledge and fact. All these things that differentiate them from something that's flighty and unknown and changeable. These are all things that are very, very solid. And our relationship to ourselves and our thoughts is always something that we can choose, we can change, and we can have control over. So let's say, for example, you're in a job interview and you prepared yourself really well and things are going pretty well. And then let's say you accidentally say someone's name wrong. And in that moment, you could choose to be really hard on yourself and feel like, oh my gosh, I've messed it up now. The whole interview is going to go terribly because I made this mistake. And that is probably how it will go if that's what you decide in your mind, right? On the other hand, if you take that moment and you're like, oh, wow, oh, I better apologize, acknowledge my mistake, and then keep going with everything that I know about myself in this interview. Well, then the interview is probably going to go quite well. So how you talk to yourself, what you know about yourself, these are internal sources of confidence. And these are just some of the examples. So when in doubt, when you're in self-doubt or a lack of confidence, you can think about the actual facts of who you've been, what you've achieved, those things that are very tangible. When you think about them, you're like, for sure that happened, right? There's no way that didn't happen, or I didn't help this group, or I didn't get this far in my schooling, or something like that. Go to the facts about yourself and feel how true those facts are and make them your focus rather than the worries about what could happen or what other people might think, which aren't actually facts, right? They're all just possibilities, opinions. They're not facts. So you can think about facts. You can also connect to your own inner strengths. Think about, okay, I'm struggling with this, getting ready for this interview. But where do I have confidence naturally? Well, let's see. I have it when I'm helping my family, make supper. I don't even need to look at a recipe because I know what I'm doing. I know how it needs to taste and everything. So it's like, okay. So in those moments, you know what you're capable of. You know what you want your end goal to be. And that's what is part of what gives you that confidence. So you can connect to that. Okay, I just need to remember in this interview, what am I here for? Oh yeah, I'm here because this is really important to me. So I'm going to focus on this being important to me and that I have a right to be here. And I'm just going to focus on that and speak from that place, right? So tapping into those strengths that you already have. And that also links to the idea of speaking from a place of knowing what your goals are, and that those goals are linked to your values. And this is a really big idea, so I'll just introduce it to you because this could be its own whole workshop. But when our goals are based on superficial things or things that we think other people will find important, like money or status or something, or who knows, right? You'll know the difference because you'll be thinking about, well, this should be my goal. The word should will get in there. As opposed to when you have goals that are coming from a place of your own values. So this is where you think, why am I doing this? Well, I'm doing this because I want to love the work that I do. Yeah, that's true. That doesn't satisfy anybody else. It's not about what other people think about it. It's because of what's important to me. Or like I get nervous sometimes, like even when I'm preparing for these workshops. And sometimes I remember that, why am I even doing this? Because I want to help people feel as good in themselves as they deserve to feel. And when I connect to that, it gives me the courage to speak and to show up because it's something that's bigger than my fears. And that's what focusing on your goals can do for your confidence. It gives you something bigger than all those little fears about what could happen or what people could think. So that's another thing. And then, of course, there's also an idea of sharing the spotlight. So, and we're going to get into this more later, but just to give you an idea, when we get nervous in communications, and nervousness and lack of confidence, they often go together, right? Oftentimes it's because on some level, we've decided that there's a spotlight on us and that all the focus is on us. And so there's a lot of pressure, pressure to perform or pressure to do it exactly right. And so that can bring nervousness, lack of confidence and everything. So when you're in communication moments and you have the nervousness and stuff, remember to share the spotlight. It's not all about you. The other person could very well have their own version of nervousness or a fear of not doing it right, or who knows. But when you think about it's not all about you, you're sharing the spotlight. A lot of the nervousness and the stress that comes from that and everything a lot of it naturally goes down. I'm using that right now because even though I'm the only one talking, I'm focused on feeling like we're here together, and we're here together for an important reason. And that's my focus, rather than the idea that, my face is on your screens and my voice and all that stuff. Because that would probably totally clam me up and make me want to run and hide. Okay, so those are internal sources of confidence that I think a lot of your ideas about internal sources, they fit in there. Plus, there's always more, which I think is great. You will find your own sources. And that's the key here. Where's the deepest place that your confidence comes from? And then whenever you can, speak from that place. That's where the unshakable confidence can come from. So here's a story. And to make this, even a little more real for you, because I work with people who are in career transition all the time. People that sometimes are in a job where they're trying to do their best, but they're not sure about it, all the way to people who have just been let go from their work, and they're trying to get ready for interviews and things like that. So this is a story of Susie. Now let's imagine that Susie has a performance review coming up at work. So she's been at this job for about a year, and the way this company works, at the 1 year mark, you have a meeting with your manager where you go over kind of how you're doing, what you're doing well, what you can improve on. Sometimes you get to talk about your goals. And sometimes in a performance evaluation, you might be eligible for a raise in your pay, or maybe even a promotion. So Susie's at home. It's the night before her performance evaluation, and she is consumed by fear and doubt and worry. And all these different thoughts keep coming to her, like, I know I could have done better on that project. I could have gotten everything done faster or more efficiently. And there was that one time when I made that one mistake that everybody said it was no big deal, but I think it was a big deal. And I don't feel like my boss really knows me very well because I'm so quiet, that maybe he doesn't really know me. So and there's her husband, and he's trying to bring her support, and he's saying, I don't think any of that is really true. Your team members are telling you all the time that you're such an important person on the team, and that you're so helpful, and all those things. But no matter what her husband says, Susie is just really focused on her fears and her doubts. So I want to know in the chat from all of you, how do you think her performance evaluation is going to go? When she's feeling like that about it, how is her performance evaluation going to go? Feel like I should sing the Jeopardy soundtrack. How do you think her performance evaluation is going to go? Is it going to go well? Is she going to feel good about it? Yeah, it will be okay. Yeah, it might be okay. Yeah, it absolutely, because it could be okay. One thing, she'll question the feedback. Yes, Michelle, that's so true. When when you're sure that you haven't done as well as you could have done, even when your boss is standing in front of you telling you how great you did, sometimes you don't believe them. You actually think that your boss doesn't know what they're talking about. Yeah, so this is such a great example of how we talk to ourselves, being having a big impact on how our communication moments go, right? So for Susie in this moment, we're not sure for her, even though she deserves to have a performance evaluation. Oh, and Bruce D says it happens to me all the time. Yeah, so I'm so glad you're here then, because we're gonna work through it. And now we're gonna do our first breakout room. So you're gonna have to bear with me here because I want to set this up. So what's going to happen is a little pop-up is going to come on your window that says join a breakout room, and you just click join. And then you're going to go into your screen might even black out for a moment, and then all of a sudden you'll be in a whole new room with just a few people. And this is where I really encourage you to open your mic, open your camera if you're comfortable. And what I'd like you to share with each other is, when recently did you have a moment of struggle with communication confidence, and what did it feel like? Just share with each other. That's all we're going to do here. And then you'll see, once you're in the breakout room, you'll also see that a little pop-up will come that says, you have 1 more minute, and then I'm going to pull you all back into the main room together. So it's like this really neat little thing. So let's get this going here. Okay, so we have about 45 people. Just a second here. Hold on. Just a second here. I'm going to do, let's see, 45 people. If I do 13 rooms, yeah, 12 rooms. Okay, I'm going to do 12 rooms. I'm not going to include the co-host. And there we go. Okay, so now, just 1 second here. This is going to get better the next time, everybody, I promise. Okay, so I'm going to open all the rooms. You're going to get the message, join your rooms, share with each other, and I'll see you in 10 minutes. Nadia, you just got here. We're doing breakout rooms. So you might have just been invited to a room. So please feel free to join that breakout room. And we're just talking about when you had a moment of communication struggle and what that felt like. There you go. I'm going to assign you to a room. So just click the button and go to your room. Okay. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry if we close your room in the middle of a really engaging conversation with each other. That's the only downside to breakout rooms, is that you get started on something that you, yes, I did. Yeah, you get started on something that you don't get to finish. I'm very sorry about that. But I'm so glad that you were engaging with each other. That is fantastic. So what would be something that you found in common with each other in that breakout room? If you want to share it in the chat. What did you take away as like a commonality for those who are in the room together? Oh, engineers, neato. What else? What else did you all find? Newcomers, yeah. Yeah, in the same boat. Great. Language barrier, yes. I'm so glad that you're here together. And I can't even tell you how much I appreciate the courage it takes to live somewhere where it's not your native language. Wow, I've tried it a little bit in other countries. Wow, so challenging. So I'm so glad that you're here. Yeah, taking deep breaths. Yes, thank you. I need to do that too. Okay, so great. So let's move on.
I guess what Peksha meant that since we are supposed to meet anyway, so why don't that the page to
Oh, I'm so sorry. I think your audio cut out or I didn't get the full message. Would you be able to type that into the chat? Because it'll help so that nobody misses it. That would be great. And we're going to dig in to what makes confidence go away. So, sometimes this may have even happened in the breakout room. You might have had a moment where you're like, oh, I should be confident to talk with these people, but I'm not. And there are those moments where your normal confidence completely leaves you and you don't know what to do about it. And sometimes it's those situations where there's a lot of importance to it. And that's where your confidence leaves you. And it can be extremely frustrating as to why that happens and how to try to make it stop. So let's talk about the reasons why we lose confidence. So the four main reasons are self-doubt, negative self-belief, over-focus on external approval, and fear of failure and vulnerability. And some of those can seem similar to each other, but let's go through them so that you can start to feel how they're different. And the reason it's good to be able to know the difference between them is because in a moment where you're struggling with confidence, you can ask yourself, check in with yourself on, okay, what is the lack of confidence based on right now? So we're going to go through each one of these and you can see which ones, how they're different from each other. So self-doubt feels like you're stuck between, yes, I can, I don't know if I can. So you're waffling between those two things. So there's still a little bit of a, I think I can, but you're not sure. And you're going back and forth. And sometimes you're tipping more over to the, I'm pretty sure I can't. And sometimes you tip over to, oh, maybe I can. So it feels like uncertainty. It feels like you feel tentative. You can't speak very clearly, with a lot of strength and clarity because you're uncertain in that moment. You can often, in those cases, you can still manage to speak up, but you won't be bringing everything you have to that conversation or to that whatever you're saying, because self-doubt is in there, making you feel jittery and maybe your words are stumbling. I've even had some of those moments already today. So it happens to everybody, but that's self-doubt. It's the waffling back and forth. Further to that is an experience of negative self-belief. So where self-doubt was you kind of waffling back and forth between what you think you can be capable of and what you're uncertain of, negative self-belief is where you are sure that you cannot do something. It feels like I shouldn't say anything because I have nothing to offer. I'm a failure. Oftentimes they are I am statements. I am this, I am not that, right? They're strong ideas about who you are, and they're negative. They're not strong ideas about who you are that are positive. They are negative. And so those ones, those can not just make your voice a little shaky or make your statement, whatever you're communicating, make it not quite as clear and strong as it could be. Negative self-belief is what keeps you from talking at all, or from what gets you just saying what other people need you to say, rather than what you actually think, or prevents you from stepping forward to something that could be really good for you, but it holds you back because it tells you that it's not for you. So negative self-belief can be felt in the body as like a sinking feeling in your stomach, a furrowing in your brow, a kind of a cloudiness in your thoughts, and it can make you want to kind of retreat. So it's very much stronger than just self-doubt. Another place where we lose confidence, which we already touched on before, is the over focus on external approval. So when you are checking in with yourself on, why am I not confident right now? You can think, well, because I looked at that one person and they looked bored by what I was talking about. And so now I think I'm doing a terrible job. I have nothing to say, right? That's where in that moment, I could put all my determinations of what makes me confident based on that one person's facial expression, right? That's where you can lose confidence. Or if you're thinking about what you want to say, and this can definitely come up when you're working through ESL, where you're working so hard to craft your words in a new language. And when you start to think, people are going to think I sound bad. So before you've even opened your mouth, you've decided what's out there, and it doesn't feel good. And then you feel like, well, now I don't feel like I can have any confidence, because maybe those whoever I'm talking with isn't going to like how my English sounds. And that's where you're putting all your confidence in somebody else's hands, right? So that's another thing you can notice about your loss of confidence. And then the last one is a fear of failure or a fear of vulnerability. So either one of those, what we're afraid of is how bad we're going to feel about ourselves after. So if you think about, let's use the ESL example again. You want to say something well, and you know that you have to practice speaking to people, but you want to do it as well as you can because it feels terrible when you get it wrong or something. So you practice saying something out loud. The person who you're talking to says, oh, do you mean this instead, or something? And then you feel, maybe you feel like you failed because you didn't say it correctly. They didn't understand what you were trying to say. And now the feelings for yourself start getting bigger and bigger, and now your confidence is getting smaller and smaller because you put so much pressure on yourself to do it just right, and that anything other than just right is failure, right? On the other side of it is the fear of vulnerability, which is where you're showing the world that you're still figuring this out. You're making mistakes. I've already made a bunch of mistakes today because that's being human, right? But somehow we can be very hard on ourselves and think, no, whatever I show the world, I need to show that I know how to do it well, and I'm not going to be vulnerable and show them that I'm still figuring it out. And so again, your sense of confidence has a lot of expectation and pressure in it for yourself to speak and perform a certain way. And when that is what your confidence is based on, it's really easy to lose it because you're human. You're going to make mistakes. The only way to learn something is to do it wrong a whole bunch of times until you start to get it right. So, these are places you can look. When you're struggling with confidence, just take a moment. And I always put my hand to my chest like this because it helps me remember to be kind to myself. So if I'm having a moment of struggle, I'll put my hand here and I'll just think, okay, why am I not confident right now? Well, because I stumbled over those words and I probably sounded really dumb. And so everything I do from here on is not going to be good. Okay. That's understandable. So it seems like my loss of confidence was in my fear of vulnerability because I made a mistake. Okay, well, now I'm going to move on with what I know about myself, which is that it's not all about me. Humans make mistakes, and I'm just going to keep going. And you can do that for yourself as well. Take a moment, pause, breathe, and just check in with what caused the loss of confidence. And we're going to do an exercise on that in a little bit. I'm just going to check the chat. Okay, we're doing good. So now, as you can probably imagine, we're going to start talking about the place that how we talk to ourselves, the impact that has on our communication confidence. Because communication confidence is about us talking to other people. But the confidence we have is grounded in how we talk to ourselves between here and here. So here's some wild statistics for you. Any guesses in the chat on how many thoughts we have per day? Any guesses? I'd love to know. Just throw a number out there. Thousands, yes. Thousands and thousands. 30,000. Oh, good guess. Yes, very good guess. So the average amount is 60,000 thoughts per day. Some of you may even go up to 100,000 thoughts a day. Our brains are incredibly busy. It's amazing what our brains can do. And because a big part of the human brain is built to keep us alive, right? To be very survival focused, we have what's called a negativity bias, which means that our brain tends to focus on negative things more than positive things, to the point where actually for every one positive thought you have 3 negative thoughts. Because if you think about it, it's like way back, and the roots of humanity. If you thought like, oh, it's going to be a great day today, I'm sure I'll find some food for my family. If that was your predominant thought, you might not have looked as hard to find the food. Whereas if you have 3 thoughts that say, I hope we don't starve today, and 1 thought of maybe we'll find food, then you would probably look a little harder for the food. And then, you and your family would survive. Humanity as a species would continue. So we have a negativity bias built into our brains. And then on top of that, a full quarter of all the thoughts that we have are about ourselves, and they are self-critical. A full quarter. So that's like, what is that? That's like 15,000 or more thoughts a day that are about you and that are critical. Some of them will be founded in fact, and a lot of them will be founded in opinion, possibility, but not fact. So this is really, yeah. Oh, Ali Riza says, I think for me it's a million. Yeah. A million thoughts a day. So this is, this is where you can start to bring a whole bunch of compassion to yourself. Because as you start to become aware of how you talk to yourself, and you start to realize, wow, sometimes I'm talking to myself very negatively. Remember that that's a part of being human too. It's not you failing or you being bad at something. It's you being human. And once you're aware of it, you have the ability to do something about it. So that's also a good thing. So we're gonna talk about that some more. So before we do, another chat moment. Tell us, what is one common negative thought that you have about yourself? It can be anything. Mine is that I'm unorganized. My brain tries to convince me of that many times a day. I just keep trying to prove it wrong. But what about you all? What is a common negative thought that you have? I will fail. Oh, yeah. Yes. My English is not enough. Yes. Who gets to decide how much is enough, right? Geez, I can tell you that that sentence was very good, Victoria. What else? Oh, Andrea, they will find out what I do not know. Yes, like people might think that you know what you're doing, but really they're wrong. You're a fraud, something like that. Oh, that is, yes. I'm not as social as I need to be. Okay. And again, right, it's so interesting. According to whose standard? Which standard are we choosing to input on ourselves? It's amazing. So this is so great, everyone. So now that you've thought of a self-critical thought that you have often, imagine saying that thought to someone you care about. So take that thought and aim it at someone you care about and say it to them. You're going to fail. You're going to fail. And then imagine saying that to the person you care about 50 times a day. Oh, hey, you person I care about, don't forget, you're going to fail. Okay? Just imagine that for a second. Imagine saying it out loud to someone you care about. Wouldn't that be, I know it's horrible. We would never speak to others the way we are talking to ourselves all day long, every day, for years of our life. We would never say those things to other people. And again, that's not you being wrong or making a mistake. That's you being human. So we're going to talk about what to do with that. So now, imagine, we're going to flip it around again. Imagine that same loved one that you were just picturing. Imagine that you heard them saying something like that to themselves. You know, your cousin, you see them saying to themselves, oh, I shouldn't even try because I'm just going to fail. That's all I ever do is fail. I should never try for anything because I'm going to fail, and so on. Now, what would you do to bring comfort to them when you see them being so hard on themselves? What would you do? What would you say? Smack them in the face. Well, let's leave that part out. But right, like make sure they know how awesome they are. Yes. Try to help them see everything that you see. What else, everyone? I don't know how I'd feel about a smack. I think the words are better. What else? What else would you all do to bring comfort to someone who's being really hard on themselves? I would probably put my arm around them. I would remind them of something that they had done. Oh yeah, okay. Thanks. Give examples. Yes, give them examples of how whatever they're saying to themselves is factually not true. Yes. Yes, remind them of their skills. Remind them of what could be good. Yeah. So you all have this ability to bring care and kindness to someone who is being hard on themselves. And self-compassion is you taking that skill that you so easily give to others. And once you become aware that you're being hard on yourself, you hear that voice that's saying, I'm a failure, or I don't deserve to be confident or anything. And you bring some of that caring to yourself. So you just simply say the things that somebody that cares about you would say. Pretend you care about yourself and say those things to yourself. I'm not going to fail, or at least I know that when I try something, I work really hard, I give it my all, and there are lots of examples in my life where I have not failed. There, that's me giving self-compassion, giving it right here, right? And you can do that for yourself. But first, you need to become aware of that conversation in your head. So let's go back to Susie, and we're going to talk about Susie for a minute, and then we're going to take a really quick break. I know we all need to get up and move sometimes. So you all remember Susie. She was up for her 1-year performance evaluation, and she was full of fear and doubt because she was sure that she hadn't done enough to deserve a good evaluation, right? Well, let's take that exact scenario, except after her husband says some supportive things to her, she starts to listen, and she starts to hear that he is speaking truth. When he says, remember when you helped your team meet that deadline? And Susie says, yeah, I remember. I actually worked with 3 different departments to try to help us meet that deadline. And everybody was saying how much they appreciated what I'd done. And just the other day, I did this other thing. And all of a sudden, she's sitting up straighter. And she's reminding herself of more and more facts about who she's been at work and how hard she's worked and everything like that. And all of a sudden, she's starting to think, oh gosh, you know what? I'm a little less scared about my performance evaluation. I still don't know how it's going to go, because I don't know what my boss is going to say. But I know now more about who I've been at work. And I feel confident that that is true. I really have been those things at work. And so now she can go into that performance evaluation with, regardless of what her leader brings, she goes in with self-knowledge and self-confidence, so that if her leader does praise her and potentially offer her a raise or a promotion or something, she'll be ready. She's not going to turn down the opportunity because she'll feel that she deserves it, right? And the only difference in all of this story is that she took the time to acknowledge her lack of confidence and to rebuild the things that she has a right to feel confident about, and to connect to those before she got into the meeting. Before she started communicating about it, she built up that sense for herself. So it's amazing how different it can be when you go in with your confidence already present to you. So with that, let's take a break. I'm going to give 5 minutes. So what time is it here? It's 15 after. At 20 after, we'll come right back and dive back in, because we have a whole bunch of exercises and another breakout room and stuff like that. So please definitely go move around. Don't stay on your screen. Go look out your window, have a sip of water, and we'll be back here at 20 after. Okay. It's wonderful. Okay. So Susie is very likely to have a great performance evaluation, at least from her own side, right? She's going to show up with self-knowledge and confidence, and maybe she'll even advocate for why she deserves a raise, right? In case her boss didn't notice all the reasons why she deserves a raise, Susie will be able to bring that to the meeting, which would be so amazing. So let's talk now. Let's get into some specifics around communication confidence and the particular areas of challenge around communication at work. So for those of you that are in a job already, you may relate to some of these things. And for those of you that are looking for work, these things can still show up in networking situations, in interviews, and that kind of thing. So apply it to whatever situation is most present for you. But some of the most common ones are we have communication confidence issues when we're asked to speak on a topic without any preparation time. Someone just comes up to you and says, what do you know about this whole area? And they want you to give them like all the best information in 2 minutes or less, right? That's really challenging. Or when you're asked to assert or validate the value that you bring at work, or assert your ideas or your skills. So like let's say in a meeting where somebody says, okay, who knows about this? And tell us about whatever you know. And even though you know about it, you might be like, I don't know, should I put my hand up or not, right? You can have a moment where you're not sure if you should step forward. Or when you're required to make yourself heard amongst many other voices. Inevitably in work situations, you will have some people who are just very vocal, very able to put their voice out there, put their ideas out there. And then there are other people who, if you ask them one-on-one, they would have so much to say, but in a group setting, they can struggle. And that was the example I gave of myself at the beginning, because my voice was so much quieter than a lot of the people that I would work with. I'd think, well, I feel like I have to change my voice in order to be heard in this room. So that's also an area of struggle. And then what about all of you? When are the moments when you have struggled to have communication confidence at work? I know we've got the language barrier. That's a big one for sure. When else? When else at work have you struggled? I'll wait for a couple examples and then I'll move on. Oh yeah, presentations. Oh, I feel that today. Yes, there is always a chance to struggle speaking in public. Yes, that one is more people are afraid of public speaking than they are of death. So if that puts it into context for you about how common the fear of public speaking is, yes. Lack of knowledge, okay, yeah. And fair enough, right? If you're asked to speak on something that you don't know very much about, that could definitely bring a challenge to your confidence. So let's go through culture shock. Oh yes, that's a good one too, for sure. Let's go through an exercise where you can prepare for an important communication moment. Let's say you know there's a meeting coming up, or you can even apply this to interviews, but you have a little bit of time before the meeting. Let's say you only have 5 minutes. You know a meeting is going to happen in 5 minutes, and you have a little bit of time ahead of time. So this is an exercise that you can do to bring your confidence up. Notice how I don't use the word build your confidence, because that's like as if you didn't have any in the first place. You have confidence. It's just that it's covered up by fears or worries or self-doubt. You just have to bring it up from wherever it's hidden under. And this exercise is a very quick way for you to do it. So let's go through. Pretend you have an important meeting in 5 minutes and you're a little bit nervous about it. Maybe the meeting is about, a project that you really care about at work. So the way this exercise works is to write down this. There's going to be a very quick list of things here. So if you have your pen and paper, feel free to do this. Write down 3 things that you're proud of about yourself. This is anything in your life, family, friends, education, doesn't matter. Without thinking too much, write down 3 things. I'll give you a minute right now to do that, just on your own notes. 3 things that you're proud of. And because this should be quick, these are not things that you have to decide, is this a good one or not? It's just, yeah, these are 3 things. Now I want you to write down 3 things that were hard to do, but you did it. Anything in your life. You can go back as far as you want. Something that was hard to do. Coming to Canada, learning English, reaching for a promotion, being a parent. I mean, all kinds of things. 3 things that were hard to do, but you did it. And now, 3 things that you are grateful for. Anywhere in your life, anything you're grateful for. Okay. And then And that one often comes the easiest. And then finally, one thing that you wish to get from this important meeting, just one outcome. I know it's a pretend important meeting, but but you want to connect to one wish you have or one goal you have for this meeting. And once you have those things and you read through them and you connect to them as facts, as things that are very true for you in this moment, and you do that before an important meeting, you're so much more likely to speak from a place of confidence because you're not focused on your fears. You're not focused on what somebody else is going to think about you. You're not focused on, you know, your hair or or maybe even you can focus a little less on your accent when you're speaking English. It won't matter as much because you've connected to these things about who you are and you're proud of yourself and you're grateful for things in your life. And you have a goal for this meeting, darn it, and you're going to try to make it happen. All of those things can put you in a place of accomplishment. And I am just going to pause share for 1 second. Okay. So now we're going to go on to another exercise. So at the beginning, I said I was going to hit you with a whole bunch of things. This is an example. You've got that one exercise. And by the way, you'll have access to these slides after and to the recording. So you can always go back and go back over this after. But here's another exercise. And this one can be really good for job interviews. You can even use it when you're in a communication moment. So like me right now, let's say all of a sudden I get in my own head and think, this workshop is going terrible. I'm doing a terrible job, and I get all distracted. I could actually do this exercise, you know, while you're all in a breakout room or something, and then be able to come back and feel more confident. So this is a very in the moment exercise, and it's about being able to assert your value, which means, you know, asserting, telling the world, I know this thing. I'm good at this thing. I believe I can do this. Being able to say that out loud and clearly and strongly, this exercise can help you do that. So here's what it looks like. The first thing is to notice what you're feeling, right? When you're in that meeting or that interview, and you realize that, you know, your foot is doing that jackrabbit thing and it's just tapping away and you're like, oh my gosh, why is my foot doing that? Oh, because I'm starting to get more and more nervous. I'm getting more and more uncertain of if I'm in the right place. Somebody said, are they going to find out everything that I don't know? Like all those things, right? Notice what's happening with your confidence. And see, my hand goes to my chest. That's always what happens. And you can even do that in a meeting, or you can even just consciously put one hand inside another in your lap and give your hand a little supportive squeeze. Try it right now. Put your hands in your lap and give your hand a little supportive squeeze, and just notice what you're feeling and breathe. Nice deep breaths. Just noticing if there's nervousness or where your thoughts are. Just noticing, breathing deep. Great. And in a meeting, you can be doing that. Nobody else will know that you are recentering yourself, but it still has a very powerful effect. Those two things, noticing what you're feeling, bringing awareness to it, and then breathing, just those two things take all the stress systems in your body and it brings it down. It makes your whole body, mind system feel calmer, which is amazing, right? Like that's so powerful. Just by doing those things, you can feel calmer, because when you're calm, your mind is more open. You can access all your knowledge, all your skills that are all in there. When you're scared and you're nervous and you feel unconfident, your brain locks up like a vault. And you feel like, I know this, but I can't access it. And when you breathe and you become aware, you just breathe into it. You're not even trying to fix it. Just saying, I am so nervous right now. I care about what they think of me. I want to do a good job, and I'm breathing. All of a sudden, that vault of your mind, it opens up, and you have access to all your knowledge. It's all there for you. So those are the first two steps. And the next thing, once you've brought yourself into a calmer place, either connect to your goal. Why are you here? What do you want this to do for you? Or remember something about you that's a fact. So if I were to do this in this workshop right now, and I was recentering myself so that I could bring my value, I would remember my goal is to bring as much support to people who need to build communication confidence as I can. That's my goal. And that makes me feel so calm because it's not about me. Why am I nervous about doing it perfectly when this isn't really even about me, right? Or I could find a fact. For me, a fact is I run workshops every week and they usually go pretty well. So there's a good chance that this one will go well too. Okay, that's a fact. Again, I feel calmer, right? So now in the exercise, number 4 is about where you're taking what you did in numbers 1, 2, and 3, and you're sharing it in your communication. So when it's time for you to speak, and maybe you're uncertain of what to say, there's 2 options. There's almost always 2 options. You can either share something, or you can get curious about something. So either you share your goal or your value or your skill, your knowledge, you're sharing something, or you're getting curious about what you want to know more about. Either way, you're doing a good job of communicating something that's going to take that meeting, that interview, anything, it's going to bring it forward, right? Because you're bringing something valuable. So that is an exercise, and we're going to apply that right now to interviewing. Because whether you're in a job right now or you're not, somewhere in your life, in your future, there will be a job interview. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. And it is one of the most pressure-filled communication moments that any of us have, because there's a lot riding on it, right? So I'd like to know, to begin with, in the chat, what are job interviews? What have they been like for you in the past? Like easy, challenging? What's a word for what interviews have been like for you in the past? Scary. Yes, thank you. That's a great word. Yes. What else? I think for me, one of the words would be intimidating, stressful, yes. Demanding, exhausting, oy vey, no kidding. So exhausting. Yes. Okay, so let's apply that exercise, and actually not the one we just did, but we're going to go back and we're going to bring forward that connecting to your value exercise, and we're going to make it specific to work. So remember this one where you listed the 3 things? So this time, let's say you're preparing for your interview. You're going into your interview in an hour from now. And instead of trying to memorize your resume or something, make this list. And I want you to do it right now. I want you to practice this. Pretend you're going in for an interview in an hour that you really care about, you really want the job. And you're going to write this list out before you go into the interview. 3 things you're proud of about your work life. 3 things that it was hard to do at work, but you did it anyway. 3 things you're grateful for about work. And then 1 desired outcome of the interview. So go ahead, take a couple minutes and write those things out on paper. This is a really good thing to practice. Don't think too hard about it. Whatever comes first is the right thing. Go ahead and write those things out. And let me know in the chat when you're done. Oh, I'm going to close my window. I think there's construction. Okay, did everyone have a chance to try that? What is one thing you came up with? Yes, I want to know. We all want to know. Tell us something that you came up with for your interview prep. I know the hour is getting long, but the more we engage with each other, the more we all get out of this. Okay, you know, one thing I thought of that I'm proud of is doing workshops like this. I think back to myself, 15 years ago. I would have never imagined that I'd be comfortable doing this. So I'm proud of that. And yeah, thank you, Michelle. Proud of dedication. Yes, good. These are very powerful things. When you make a list like this, and then you read it over and you feel how solidly true all these things are, that can put you in a very confident place. Specifically, thank you, Han, that's great. Specifically around work. I highly encourage this to be part of your interview prep, particularly in the hour before an interview when the nerves and the fears can all get bigger and louder. Do this exercise in those moments, because when you step into an interview from that calm, connected to facts about yourself place, it goes so much better. But let's talk about a couple more things that can really help your interviews be successful. And this is from years of helping people prep for specific interviews and then getting to hear back after how it went and how many job offers they've had and all that kind of thing. So these three things can really benefit your interviews. So the first thing, prepare your talking points. So there's a lot of communication moments where we can't prepare, right? We just have to say whatever comes available to us in the moment. But interviews are ones that we can prepare for. And you never want to go into an interview sounding like you're reading a script, right? That's not gonna sound genuine or like you're really present in the moment. But if you practice, you prepare your talking points ahead of time, you can remember things. Oh yeah, when they ask me, of a challenge at work, I can tell them about that project where, it was really challenging for these different reasons, because you might not remember that specific project in the heat of the moment, but you can bring it up when you're preparing. And there are tons and tons of resources, right? Of the typical questions that are asked in interviews, and preparing your talking points around those typical questions is very, very valuable, because almost no one can have a really good answer to an interview question without preparing ahead of time. Almost no one. Like it's like a superpower or something if you can do it. So once you've prepared your script, your talking points, you've written it out on paper, you've kind of got it down, then you need to practice it out loud. You have to actually say it out. And I know for some of you, you're like, that sounds dumb. Like, why can't I just read it and that'll be preparation enough? And the answer is no, because in the moment of an interview, in order for you to have access to all that preparation, your mind, your voice, and your focus all have to come together in order to speak it. And those three things are so much more likely to come together for you if they've come together many times in practice. So you have to verbalize. That's just like, I've never lived in a country where it wasn't my first language. I've tried, but I remember I would be talking to myself. I would have imaginary conversations with myself out loud, practicing the language, right? Hoping that if I practice it when there's nobody there, when I am out in public and somebody asks me a question, some of that will come up. Some of that ability will be there. Interviewing is exactly the same. You must practice it out loud. It doesn't matter if you talk to your dog as if he's the one interviewing you, if you do it in the shower. I love doing it when I'm in my car or when I'm out walking in the woods and there's nobody around, right? You can pretend you're on a phone call and talk out loud. It doesn't matter. Practice with your loved ones, right? Whatever helps you practice out loud. It's an essential part of being ready for interviews. And finally, remember the spotlight. Sharing the spotlight. When you walk into an interview and you're prepared and you've practiced out loud and you've connected to your value ahead of time, and then you walk into that room, or if it's a virtual interview, you open the screen. Remember that it's not all about you. And here's an analogy for you, which even executives have found helpful when they go into interviews. Rather than going into an interview feeling like the spotlight is on you, everybody's looking to you to perform, to prove yourself, rather than seeing it that way, imagine walking into the room, and this is a meeting, and you're all there around that table to talk about a problem. And each person at that table brings something different to helping to solve that problem. And you're just one of them. You're just one of the people that's been asked to come in to talk about how can we fix this problem, right? And they're all there. They're all there for the same reason as you. And the problem is that that company or that organization has a gap in their team, and they need to talk about how they can fill that gap. And they've brought you in because they already think that you have some great solutions to how that gap can be filled. You're there because they already think that they need to know what you know. And all you have to do is share it. You see how different? How there's not so much pressure on you in that interview. You're more there to share your value because there's this problem that you're all wanting to fix. You might have some more interesting talking points because you're sort of thinking more collaboratively with the people that are in the meeting. It changes all those things that can put us in a very unconfident place, a nervous place, all those things. And it brings you into a more relaxed, hey, yeah, I'm here, I'm happy to help. What can I do to help solve this problem, right? So it's a great perspective to put yourself in for interviews. And even if, and this has happened for some of my clients, even if you walk in the room and there is a panel of people on one side of the table, and then you're on the other, and it can feel very much like there's a spotlight on you, when you see that table more as like a round table, and you're all just sitting at that table together to talk about the problem, you naturally can tap into your confidence and your collaborative perspective more and more. And trust me, companies want someone who has the ability to collaborate. So when you show it, even at the interview level, makes a huge difference to your success. So that's something to keep in mind. Prepare your talking points, practice out loud, and then remember that it's not all about you when you're in the room. And now we're zooming through because I want to make sure that we have time for some questions. Strong answers to interview questions. There, see, there's your panel. There's usually 4 key elements. Your strong answers to an interview question are when you focus on your role and your skills, and you don't focus on the details around other people, right? You're really spending most of your time talking about what you bring, what you learned, You share the beneficial outcomes of your work. And then you state how you will apply your learning to this current job. So you basically speak as if you're already in the role and how you would bring your skills and your knowledge to this current role. And when you do that, the people that are interviewing you very naturally start to see you in that role. So it's like a really great, almost like association. You're helping them associate you and your skills with being in that role already. So those are key elements to good interview questions. And I know we could probably spend a whole bunch of time just on that. But I just wanted to point out that it's not rocket science, right? A good interview question, it's focused on you. It's talking about the benefits to the company or to the team of what you bring or what you learned, and then how you would apply that in the current job. And those elements in an answer will give you a really well-rounded interview question. And that's what you prepare, right? That's what takes some preparation time. And so now I'm going to skip to, because we're getting close to the end and I want to honor your time, I'm going to skip to the recap for today because we have covered so many things. We have covered how confidence really comes from within. That's the kind of confidence that doesn't just disappear on you because it's coming from deep within. We've talked about how building awareness around how am I feeling right now? Where's my confidence at right now? Is always the starting point to fixing it. We talked about having self-compassion and speaking supportively to yourself and what a difference that makes. And we've talked about the exercise of connecting to your value through listing 3 pride points, 3 conquered challenges, 3 gratitudes, and a goal. And we've talked about how it's important to prepare. Whenever you can prepare yourself, bring your confidence up before an important communication moment, and it will never serve you wrong. And when in doubt, when you're in a conversation and you're struggling, become aware of how you're feeling, breathe, and remember who you are, and then either choose to share or get curious, right? Those are all things that apply to almost every communication moment. So now I would like to know, are there any questions? And we definitely have a few minutes, so feel free. I'd love to help with any specific questions. Maybe I can stop my share now. Let's go there so we can see each other. There we go. Any questions? Feel free to type it into the chat if you want. I don't know if we can open our mics, but let's err on the side of typing it into the chat. Any questions at all? No bad questions. How
Hi,
to be
Cari.
self-compassionate. Hi.
I have a question.
Sure.
So I'm having a informational interview coming up with a person in the team of a potential employer.
Okay.
And I really want to make a good impression.
Yeah.
And then I also want to ask a lot of questions about the job. But how to, building that, sincere relationship
Right.
and like being nice.
Right.
Without making that person feel like you're just like doing detective job on what
Yes.
you're doing.
Okay, great question. So an information interview, if I have you right, Han, it's not an official interview. It's usually a kind of meet and greet. Let's see if this is a good enough fit that we're going to proceed to the official interview. Is that right?
So I actually have the first round interview with the HR already.
Okay.
And then she said that here are the people you will work with. So I connect with the person on LinkedIn
Okay.
and ask for an informational interview.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So it's less official than a full interview. It's more of a let's connect as people. Let's see if we can be understood by each other. So really, my suggestion to you, Han, would be to focus on finding areas to connect as people. So sometimes you're connecting as people outside of work, and sometimes you're connecting as people who are potentially going to work together. And one of the biggest things that a lot of us forget when we're trying to connect to someone, we think it's about what we say, but actually so much of connection is about how well we listen. When someone feels like they have truly been listened to, immediately they feel connected to you and they feel good things about you. So if you ask a question in your meeting, really, once you've asked the question, I actually think of it like there's a zipper going across your mouth and your ears get gigantic. And so when you're listening, you're really engaged with what they share and you're paying attention. You're not thinking about, okay, once they finish saying this answer, I'm going to say this other smart thing, which means
Yeah,
you
I have that problem too.
Yeah.
Because
So,
you don't want to respond
yes,
weirdly,
yes.
right?
So focus on being present and really listening. And then when they ask you a question, focus on just sharing what feels most true for you in that moment. Don't worry about having the perfect overall answer or something. Just share what comes to mind and be real. Be real with them, because that is also how people feel connected to other people. We don't feel connected when someone has the perfect answer to every question and they never make a mistake. It's like, I don't know. I don't feel connected to you. Does that help, Han?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
Thanks, Cari.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions? And then I think we're going to have to finish it off. Is that right, Jeanette? Yeah.
Yeah, hi, Cari.
Hi.
Arjun Sappa this side. First of all, thank you for the a great workshop. I just wanted to ask one question. When you were mentioning the 4 key elements to an interview, there's a second point which says that to limit the situational details.
Right.
But on the contrary, is it not that talk about what you have done and how you performed in the past, or describe those situations and then go forward? Just for example.
Yes. Yes. So when I mentioned to limit the details around other people, so many interview questions are situational, right? So they'll say, tell us about a moment when you had a challenge and how you dealt with it. So when you're answering that question, think of it like, I think of it actually like a clock. Like if you're looking at the face of a clock, and you're only going to go from the top of the clock to 3 o'clock, where you talk about the situation. Yes, I had this challenge. I was working in this team where the manager wasn't giving us the clear direction that we needed, and no one wanted to speak up. So it made the project really challenging. Right? So I've set up the situation, and then the rest of the way around that clock, I'm going to talk about what I did to deal with it, what I brought to that situation, what I learned, all the way around the clock until you get to about like 9 o'clock. And then you talk about, and here's how I would bring that forward to this role. Here's how I'm going to apply it in this role. So the situational part is very small. And I have to end it there, I think, because I want to respect your time. everybody and know that we're at the top of our clock for this workshop. But please know, Jeanette or Michelle mentioned the recording for this will be available. What I can also do is create or Jeanette can do this, or someone create like a PDF of the slides. Certainly happy to do that and share. So thank you everyone for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Cari. I think that was amazing, and the content is so relatable to many of us. I think that, you know, you've shared so many amazing information. One key takeaway that I remember, it's just like collaboration, even like at the beginning, like you said, when you're doing presentation, it's not you and then there's us, like we're in this together, and same thing, you can apply the same concept when you're interviewing. That makes it like it's the same level playing field, instead of I'm inferior and they're you know, more superior, and I feel like not as confident, but I'm actually, they have a problem, I'm come with the solution, this is why you should hire me. So thank you. And thank you everybody for joining us for the last 2 hours. I hope that you found it very helpful with your own journey. And as I mentioned, the recording to the workshop is going to be on our ACCES Wellness Hub for the next 6 months. It'll take us a couple of days to upload it, so please check back in a few days for the upload. And our next Inkblot workshop will be on July 6th on the topic of creating life and work-life balance. I will, once we're ready to take registration, I will send you the invite to everybody who's attending today. So I hope that you can join us. And thank you again, and wishing you all a great afternoon.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.